Hello there, welcome to another episode of World of Tanks and Gainy Titan. I'm here on the T54E1. I've managed to complete a skill on the T29 crew, and I thought they had, I think, about 6 skills, and I thought, yes, okay, I'll transfer them to the T54E1, which has been crewless practically since I bought it. And I also, as far as I can tell, never did a first look at the T54E1. A lot of that was due to the fact that at the time I bought the T54A1, this tank was quite literally giving me a headache. I bought it around the time of a World of Tanks upgrade, in which there were problems caused by the upgrade in various sound files for various tanks, and the engine sounds weren't correct. I think there was some other sound problems as well, but one of them was the engine sound for this tank wasn't correct. In fact, I think a lot of the time the engine sound was non-existent, but you had a really, really loud track sound. And if I played more than 2 or 3 games together with that engine sound, I used to get a headache. So I stopped playing it, and eventually I moved the crew over to the Pershing. I bought the Pershing instead, and I moved the crew over and used that to play my American medium tank play. So I've never actually done a first look at this tank. Now, as you can see, I still have the bad habit of sticking my nose out trying to empty a clip, despite the fact that there are a lot of tanks that can shoot back at me. This is not something you can do. You don't have the armor, it won't bounce the shots. It'll bounce some shots, but it won't bounce stuff reliably. However, as I was saying, I never really did a video on this tank before this. And it's been sitting idle then for ages, so I had, I think, unlocked the first package today. I'd gone past the stock package, and I had the second gun, which is the 90mm, which is, it's alright. Penetration's a bit iffy. And in fact, even on this, the top gun, the penetration is still a bit iffy. It's not reliable. It's okay if you can get flanks and rear or shoot at weak spots. But if you're frontally facing off against heavily armoured tanks, you'll have difficulty penetrating, and you'll run into tanks where you simply won't be able to penetrate, or it'll be very, very difficult to penetrate. Now I'm pulling back here because the position I'm in is in danger of getting surrounded, and I don't really have the hit points left. The other thing that this tank doesn't do well is you have to avoid trading, but that's true with most auto loaders anyway. You can't go hit point for hit point, shot for shot with another tank. You just don't have the hit points, and again, you don't have the armor to bounce shots. Like other auto loaders, you need to be in a position to dump out your clip and then get into cover, preferably somewhere where you're protected by your own guns. There's that Conqueror again that we shot at earlier on. Preferably, yeah, somewhere where you're protected by your own allied tanks, because the other thing I noticed about this tank is that if the enemy think you're on your own, they have strong tendency to YOLO you, as if they imagine that you've run out, or that you'll run out before you've managed to take them down. So it's always useful, and sometimes they're right, so it's always useful to have allies that can shoot at the position you've chosen to reload, and you really don't want to get ammo racked in this tank. In fact, I'm thinking of taking the second repair kit, maybe a large repair kit instead of the current loadout, because your load time is about over 23 seconds, I think, and it can go up to over a minute if you're ammo racked. Finally, one thing that this gun doesn't do well, and you don't get an opportunity to see here in this game, is that it doesn't actually act as a drive-by assassin very well. It has 2 problems. One is that its rate of fire is slow enough that an enemy tank, particularly a medium tank, if you're engaged in it in close quarters, will probably get a shot or 2 off, maybe even 3 shots off while you're emptying the clip. And while you're very likely to take them down, you could take a lot of damage doing it. However, the other problem that I found is this is actually a relatively tall tank. Like a lot of American tanks, it's quite tall. And unlike the other autoloaders that I'm used to, which are mostly light tanks, this tank, if you are circling around another tank using the auto-aimer, the auto-aim is pointing at the metal just above the tracks, practically right at the edge. And that seems to be the natural direction it points at. And the problem is that if you shoot there, most of the shots will bounce. And most of them will bounce harmlessly, because the majority, or at least half of them, will bounce up. And the ones that bounce up will bounce just into the air, whereas there's a chance that some of the ones that bounce down might penetrate the lower side armor, or go into the tracks and track the tanks, so that there is some benefit to doing it. So you got to be aware, if you're beside somebody and you're engaging in close quarter fighting, you've got to aim the gun. You got to aim it properly, and make sure the reticle is pointing to some part of the tank that the ammunition will penetrate, because like I said, there are quite a lot of areas in the tank where the ammunition won't penetrate. View range is okay. It's quite good actually for a medium tank, but it's not. This isn't a tank you take out and use it as a scout. Mobility again is just okay. It's not anything especially fast or anything like that. So it can relocate and stuff like that, but you have to be aware of it. Do it in time. But it's a tank you really don't want to get caught on your own, because when you run out of ammunition in a clip, you're out of ammunition for 33 seconds or so, and beyond that, I suppose you might get it down to 30 seconds or maybe 28 seconds with food and stuff like that, and a really, really good crew. But that's still quite a long reload, and if you're caught in that reload, you can be killed. There's a lot of tanks that'll do it, including other autoloaders that just have either a higher rate of fire or just do more damage per shot. But if you keep the gun alive though, if you keep this tank alive, you keep the gun firing throughout the game, if you stay on the flanks and rear of enemy tanks, because it doesn't work well for face-to-face fighting, mostly because it doesn't have the armor to bounce the enemy shots. So if you're face-to-face, you're trading hit points for shots. And that's not a good trade-off in this tank. It's not what it's designed to do. This is designed to get into flanking positions and use the burst damage to take out enemy tanks and demoralize the enemy forces around you. Because once they know you're there, they'll kind of prioritize you. You're an autoloader and therefore a very dangerous tank. So you don't want to be caught between reloads. You want to make the maximum use of your burst damage, and then if you do, you can get quite decent results. So we've got over 4k damage here with 3 destroyed from 12 penetrations, which is pretty good. Didn't get a lot of assisted damage because we weren't really spotting. I think the assisted damage is mostly from tracking. And we got a second class mastery out of that. And we came number 1 by experience, so we did reasonably well on the whole damage front as well. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Give it a like if you liked it, and please consider giving the channel a subscription, and we'll catch you all again soon.